The Invincible War introduces tons of new Invincible variants from different universes, but we never really managed to find out who any of them really were. From an Omni-Man to the Mohawk Mark we all know and love, we're gonna go through all of them in this video. Retro Mark. Probably the worst of them all, Retro Mark looks pretty similar to our Invincible, with his outfit styled slightly different. But in his universe, he knew Rexplode well. A lot better than our Mark did, and not in a good way. In fact, he knew most of the team well. When he fought the Guardians at the Team HQ, he dragged Rudy out of the robot suit, wondering where the ugly blob was, and who the kid inside was. Evidently enough, his Rudy never managed to create a physical body for himself and stay true to his nature, pretty gross looking form. So when Retro Mark started fighting the Guardians, it was clear enough they stood no chance against him, seeing as he knew all their powers and weaknesses. That's how he knew to keep Rex away from literally any objects, and beating him by choking him into the air. Except he didn't realize one key difference. The Rex in Retro's Mark's universe never had the same character development as Rexplode did. To make matters worse for Retro Mark, he didn't account for one crucial detail. Our glorious king, Rexplode's entire goddamn skeleton. Bald Mark. There isn't much when it comes to Bald Mark, but compared to the other variants, he seems quieter, and was pretty nonchalant about all the death and destruction he was causing. He ended up dying after being overpowered by Savage Dragon, and Cecil promptly put him on payroll, turning him into a remnant. God forbid Cecil let any man rest peacefully. Maskless Mark was one of the more fruitier Invincibles. He murdered his Adam Eve, and then pretty much immediately found and threatened the mainstream Adam Eve, telling her that he'd kill her. It's pretty unclear why he hates her so much, but eventually she escapes from him, and it's safe to say he got bored of trying to kill her. Winding up in Paris instead of Day 3, he decides to bury the City of Love forever, before Angstrom Levy held an Invincibles meeting, where he proceeds to leave them all stranded in the middle of nowhere. Eventually, we find out why he's so against Adam Eve. Poor guy just misses William. Guess Adam Eve was just getting in the way of things, huh? Maskful Mark. Speaking of things though, on the other side of the spectrum, we have Mark with a full mask. In fact, his entire body is covered, literally from head to toe, making you wonder sometimes if he gets hot in there or something. But instead of missing William, he misses Debbie, who died in his universe. He missed playing catch with his dad, and was never really the same after Debbie died. Now, was it really worth causing so much death and destruction? Probably not. Seeing as even if he did find Debbie in this universe, there's literally no guarantee she'll love him. Like, be for real here, he was planning on just kidnapping her to his universe and thought everything would turn out like it used to be. Somebody's got some serious mommy issues. Sadly, much like Maskless Mark, he also ends up in the Wasteland, where for all we know, Mohawk Mark is still taunting him to this day. Mustache Mark is one of the most recognizable marks. I'll let you take a guess why. In his universe, he follows his father's footsteps, and even grows a beefy mustache in true Viltrumite fashion. Right out of the gate, or, well, portal, he started destroying everything, left, right, and center. He was wearing the robes the whole time, and rather than speaking, decided to aura farm the whole time he engaged in some family-friendly death and destruction. Unfortunately for him, Tech Jacket's nonchalance was too much for him to handle, so he subsequently turned into a victim by off-brand Iron Man in space. And you could have guessed by now, Cecil added him to his roster. Viltrumite Mark. On the other hand, things turned out better for Viltrumite Mark. Somewhat. Much like Mustache Mark, he started destroying everything in sight, probably used to it at this point, seeing as he is wearing the Viltrumite Gucci Collection 2024. He meets Wolfman in New York, and they both had an extraordinary battle, and Viltrumite Mark vows to kill him again, like he did in his universe. Unfortunately, we never really find out who wins, since we only see him 3 days later after having leveled O-Block and the rest of Chicago. He also decided to bring down housing in New York, not the prices. He did us a favor and just tore down the city during his battle with Wolfman. Unlike Mustache Mark though, he didn't end up dying, and instead was trapped in the wasteland with the others. Flaxen Mark. The same can't be said about Flaxen Mark though. Actually, not much can be said about Flaxen Mark. Who knows why he decided to join them, or at least dress like them. Like, Let's be honest here. That had to be the worst suit ever. Hurts my eyes just looking at it. But he did manage to make a mess out of the Pentagon. But Donald saw that he was a lot weaker than the other marks. Once again, begging the question why he decided to join Flaxians out of everyone. And yet again, just like many others, he was turned into a Renaman. Barely even caused any destruction either. This might just want to be the weakest variant of them all. The first variant. This Mark can't relate though, being one of the first ever variants we see, when in his universe, he decides to accept his father's offer, and prepared for the planet for the arrival of the Viltrum Empire. When Angstrom decided to merge all his existences into one, he has tons of memories from when all these Invincible variants terrorized him, and for some reason, he decides to get all of them and team up against the one variant that's good. All that brain and still one of the dumbest supervillains. Defeated Mark. This is yet another one of the first ever variants we see much earlier on. In this universe, the GDA managed to take down Omni-Man with experimental quantum bombs, decimating half of Europe in the process. Funny how the word quantum comes before everything unexplainable. But after they took down Omni-Man, they started constantly jumping Mark, tiring him out, wearing him down. Finally catching him lacking trying to get some sleep, they managed to lock him up. Pretty convenient for Angstrom to interrogate him and leaving him hanging, literally. Executioner Mark. Once again, another one of Angstrom's terrible memories has Executioner Mark, a variant who, you guessed it, executes people. More specifically, he executed those who were rebelling and disobeying the Viltrum rule. Those who had the guts to demand freedom were locked up and put in prison camps. And to nobody's surprise, Angstrom was right there, kneeling, waiting to die. This variant is a lot darker than the others, walking past murdering all these people with a plain straight face. I bet he still cries when cutting onions. Shiesty Mark. This Mark is a lot more powerful than he looks, managing to put Adam Eve and the mainstream Mark in a pretty bad situation. Shiesty Mark would have for sure killed them both if the Ops hadn't rolled up on them, saving our Mark and Eve. He's one of the more powerful variants, and he knows it. Refusing help from any other Invincibles, he wanted all the death and destruction to himself. He was also very offensive and vulgar, something which Omni-Mark didn't appreciate. Light Blue Mark. This Mark is more of an NPC than anything. He was the first Invincible to invade Earth and started killing and destroying everything in sight. Unlike Shiesty Mark, he couldn't seem to hold his own, cause after the super cool opening montage, his dead body was put on payroll with the others. Guess the early bird doesn't always get the worm, huh? Mogging Mark. This Mark is one of the most powerful variants, taking down every one of the Guardians HQ. He's pretty damn arrogant and acts like a 9-year-old at times. He almost murdered and made fun of Shapesmith, and is pretty unhinged, enjoying when his opponents manage to hurt him. Somebody's pretty freaky, huh? He seems too powerful for his own good, getting upset when he kills enemies too quickly, and he doesn't get enough time to savor their screams and cries of pain. Back in his home universe, he was the one to take down the Guardians, with his father playing a more supportive role. This guy knows how to get stuff done. He first struggles with our favorite undead spirit, Kahor, before rushing to the Guardians of the Globe HQ, making pretty quick work of them. It's very clear he knows what he's doing, with his fighting style being the exact same when Omni-Man killed the Guardians in episode 1. Darkwing finally manages to take him down, by bringing him and trapping him in the Shadowverse for all of time. Only issue is, Darkwing seems to be trapped in there with him. Legend says they're still stumbling around down there. Omni-Mark. A lot like the previous Mark, Omni-Man took lead, and as for his dad, we don't know much other than he hates coming to see Grayson's household. He claims that he has some bad memories from there, but we never find out what they were. Dude was probably put into timeout one too many times. Much like Maskless Mark, he hates Adam Eve, and even smiles when hurting her. He killed his version of her on his Earth, but surprisingly though, he isn't with William. He doesn't even swing that way. Maybe he doesn't swing the other way either. Odds are, with his very cold personality, he probably doesn't swing at all. Omni-Mark seems pretty locked in. When he tried to help Shiesty Mark out of a stalemate, he swore at Omni-Mark. That wasn't very cool, man. Swearing doesn't make you cool. He manages to break Adam Eve's leg, finding it oddly pleasurable, leading to mainstream Mark quitting the fight to worry about his girlfriend's broken leg. After everything, he was put in the wasteland with the others that survived. Prison Mark. Unlike literally every Mark on this list, Prison Mark actually rebelled against his dad, but he didn't, "You dad, I'll have you." So his Omni-Man put him in a Viltrumite prison. They probably tortured the poor guy a bunch there, which explains his peculiar appearance. Oddly enough, he skipped the United States and went to Russia instead, deciding to destroy everything there. Not a big fan of communism, I see. He couldn't wait to finally start causing death and destruction, and was gearing for a good fight after being locked up for so long. After thoroughly enjoying his freedom for 3 days, he ended up banished to the Wasteland universe with the others. Racist Mark. This Mark had the original suit on, except on the sides it had the Viltrumite Empire logo. He immediately went to the UK and started causing death and destruction there. Understandable. But then oddly enough, he went to a dying hero that he defeated, telling him that he wouldn't even keep him as a slave in his empire. Someone needs to tell this guy they don't do that anymore. But amidst all the battle, he manages to face off against one of the toughest adversaries of all time, Business Baby. After completely wiping the floor with Big Mildew and Business Baby, he met with the others above the Grayson household. You'll never guess what happened next. Sinister Mark. This Mark truly is, you guessed it, sinister. He killed Omni-Man in his universe and Angstrom's wife in that universe too, forcing Angstrom and his son to hide underground. They kinda sucked at hide and seek though, with Sinister Mark finding them pretty quickly, murdering Angstrom Jr. in front of Angstrom Sr. Sinister Mark decided to go and destroy Hong Kong. He killed Beast Tiger, and on the second day, killed El Chupacabra. On the third day, he took down Hollywood, and watched it burn in front of his eyes. Not sure if there was really a bad thing he did there. Dude might have been onto something. But eventually, like the others, he was left in the Wasteland universe. Mohawk Mark. Finally, the best for last, Mohawk Mark. If you couldn't tell me from first glance, Mohawk Mark is pretty cuckoo. 2 acts like a 9-year-old. And it seems as though he never really grew out of the rebellious phase. He was the first one to fight Mainstream Mark, destroying the Patent Penitentiary. It's safe to say Mainstream Mark isn't getting paid anytime soon. In middle of taunting Mainstream Mark, he gets attacked by Powerplex before punching him aside and calling him irrelevant. Mainstream Mark does manage to overpower Mohawk Mark, knocking him out temporarily. The absolute Chad wakes up and continues, causing more death and destruction, and even tries to finding Debbie to kill. Dude has some serious deep-rooted issues. He tried faking being Mark yelling out for help. Unfortunately, she wasn't home. Who knows what would have happened if she was? He had to kill Debbie in his universe for whatever reason, and wanted to do it again. All these damn variants and their grudges. He meets with the other variants in Angstrom Levy on top of the house, where they have a meeting to discuss on how things are getting along. But lo and behold, in the plot twist of the century, Angstrom does the unthinkable and betrays them, trapping them all in the wasteland. Mohawk Mark yells out his name. Sinister Mark calmly tells that Angstrom couldn't hear him. Maybe if he yelled a little louder. And that is all the Invincible variants explained. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a comment down below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more Invincible content. And I'll see you later.